This is the Grind to Greatness podcast, your dose of unapologetic tough love. These are your hosts, Mary Hodges and Ashley Kane.
Welcome to the Grind to Greatness podcast. This is Mary Hodges and I'm here with Ashley Kane, and we have a really exciting episode for you guys today. We are going to be recapping the last 12 weeks. We know we've shared a lot of information with you. We know we leave you with action steps every week, and we thought it would be a really good idea to kind of recap all of that, summarize what we've been talking about, leave you guys with a clear and concise understanding of how you can move forward. We also have a special announcement for you guys. We decided, as things started going with our podcast, as we're talking to our audience, as we're hearing about their personal journeys, we decided to change the format of the show just a little bit. We're going to turn the show into seasons, and right now you are listening to the season 1 finale. And what better way to do that than recap everything we've talked about? And the reason we're doing that is because our first season is really the foundation season. It's really about those initial topics that set that groundwork. And we really want to give you guys a couple weeks to really put that in motion without worrying about what's coming out in the new episode that I need to consume. We want you to spend this next couple weeks going back, downloading the Life Designer Toolkit, and going through what our action steps are and trying for yourself and trying new things. We are obviously not going to go away. You're going to be hearing from us a lot on social media. We're just not going to release new episodes for a couple weeks. But you will also be hearing from us with the anticipation of what's in store for season 2. And I can tell you that there's going to be a lot of interviews in season 2. We want to offer some fresh perspective because Ashley and I do not know everything, remotely everything, not even close to everything. And fresh perspective is always great. And we think you guys will really like some of the people that we have in store for our interviews. And we're just kind of excited about this new change. We preach to you guys the importance of recharging, the importance of going back to the drawing board. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's start this recap and kind of share some of our favorite podcast moments of the season. So Ashley, anything that stands out to you on the first 12 weeks of the episode as some feedback and pointers we want to give people?
I mean, the last 12 weeks have been amazing. I think all of it kind of relates to each other in a way because we started off with, being average and we've kind of snowballed from there. So my feeling is that one of the episodes that was my favorite, which we'll get into in a second, we're going to run down all the episodes, is the power of saying no. It brought me back to that amazing book that I mentioned to you guys, The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And that book and that podcast episode for me was just like so great because I learned a lot about myself. Hopefully, I know that we got a couple feedback from that episode too, where people were kind of interested and kind of never looked at it in that perspective. So I thought that was really cool too. What about you? Any episodes that you loved?
It's so funny because we have not talked about this. That's my favorite episode too, because I think it actually had a big impact on our listeners. We're yes. And we think the more we do, the more places that we can be, the better. But when you start to actually learn that saying no is really important to getting where you want to be, of all the episodes, my favorite topic, just in general, because of the effect it's had on me personally. Random people will hit me up on Instagram too, which is really cool when you're starting something new and I don't even know who they are. And they're reaching out to me saying like, oh, that Power of No episode was awesome. I think that's been the biggest one for us that has had a huge impact on people because I don't think they've ever thought of it like that.
Yeah, that episode was fun. And also another fun one was the multitasking one. The me time was really fun too. So we're going to kind of run down all the episodes and just talk a minute or so about each episode.
Guys, I want to just remind you of why we're doing this too, because we've been giving you, we leave you with action steps every week. I know me and Ashley have both talked about this. When you're consuming a lot of like personal development content, there's thousands of books, thousands of blogs, thousands of podcasts, thousands of steps, thousands of theories. So it can be really overwhelming. Even though that we're trying to leave you with action steps that you guys can do, it's still a lot, right? Especially if this is something new for you. So we want to kind of just remind you that this is your journey. If you feel like, oh man, last week they talked about vision, now they're talking about goals and I can't keep up, that's okay.
It can feel like that though.
Yeah,
I know I felt like that just doing my readings over the last 10 years. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. But the more you study it, you can put little things into action and
Yeah, which is why I think when we were talking about the podcast in general, where we were so adamant about leaving people with action steps, because you can consume a ton of information where there's so much that you just don't know what to do. So you're just kind of frozen and stuck in time. But I think it's still important to just kind of chunk it down and just give you guys the really, really important reminders. I did love our first episode just to kind of give a sense of what it was we were about and why we're doing this. Because if you guys remember, I think when people read the title, they were like, well, you guys are assholes. It's called Being Average Sucks. But it says, at least for now. And because we here at the Grind to Greatness, we want to turn the average statistics, which right now are pretty depressing, we want that to look bright for people. We want the average set of people to be living fulfillment, bringing in the money that they need to have opportunity to take away some stress, the health that they need for that. And so that was really what the first episode was all about.
And we were so surprised. We're like, man, this is so fun. After we recorded that first episode, we're like, we're really good,
Right. And this is too, you guys, this is our own, Ashley and I together, our own personal grind to greatness with this podcast, because we have made mistakes. If you listen to the multitasking episode, we had to re-record that because I screwed up saving it somehow because I was multitasking. And so we're on our own journey with this, trying to find out what is it that people want? What are their biggest challenges and how can we help them? So this is going to be something that's ever evolving for us too, wouldn't you say, Ashley?
Yeah, I know I've evolved in a lot of ways and holding myself to the standards that I put out there in the world, and also being vulnerable and sharing stuff about myself. I was talking to my friend from Trinidad yesterday and he's like, people know you without even knowing you now. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. And he was just giving back to me little tidbits that I gave about myself that I thought was kind of interesting and fun. And then sometimes I forget that I say stuff and we put it out there. I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that.
Right. When you talk about being in this space, if you're out here telling people advice about like ways they can live their life, you almost have to be vulnerable in a way. You almost have to give them a window into who you are. Because otherwise, why should they listen to you? Who are you just out there saying stuff? Because we have our own personal stories to share.
Right.
And I think that makes the connection with the audience even better. And I'm going to share my thoughts about a way I wish we would have started, because I feel like there was a time when we started really trying to make sense of the flow of things. We kind of started talking about episodes we thought were fun and cool, but then it was like, well, wait a minute, we could actually structure this in a way that gives them like bit by bit information that's really helpful to them.
Yeah, I think the middle chunk there of the episodes, just looking at them, they all kind of related to each other in a way, which I thought was really cool, because then we could reference other episodes, and what the purpose of this episode is kind of putting it all together. And that's why on that second episode, when we kicked off the willpower thing, I think we realized that we were really tapping into something that was powerful.
Because willpower is one of those things that there's a lot of people, we love Eric Thomas for one on this. There's a couple of people we've mentioned a lot. He's one of them. He says average skill, phenomenal will. And so his message is about just doing it essentially. And we wanted to talk about why there's a little bit more science to that than just doing it, and why our brains are these really, really complex. It's a really complex, I guess you'd call it an organ in our body, but it's so powerful and complex that I don't think that stuff should be ignored, because if you start to learn about how to make your brain and how to make your habits work for you, then you'll begin to understand about okay, well, when I don't feel like doing this, when I don't feel like getting up early and going to the gym, when I don't feel like working late at night on my dream, when I've come home after a long day at a job that I can't stand, it's not just because you're lazy. It's not just because you don't care. There's more to it than that. That was helpful for them, because sometimes when you're in that space and you have goals ahead of you and you're finding challenges just doing the little things, you beat up on yourself. Sure. I mean, I know I've done that before. Wouldn't you? I mean, what do you feel about that, Ashley?
It's kind of relieving to know, like, okay, it's not just me. Other people have these struggles too. And it's not just the fact that I'm a lazy ass. It's the fact that, maybe I lost a little bit of my passion or something like that. It could be the willpower. I've been doing willpower all day, and then your willpower gets depleted, like we talked about in that episode. And that is so true. Like at the end of the day, you had a long day at work, and then you're supposed to come home and work on your dream and go to the gym and cook and take care of your kids and do all this other stuff. I mean, you feel like you're supposed to be Superwoman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that helped people realize that they don't just suck. There's more to it than that, for sure. And because motivation is really, like Mel Robbins says, motivation is garbage.
Yeah. I saw a video yesterday and someone else said that same thing. And I can't think of his name, but he was like, motivation is just, it goes away. And it really does. And we're going to do a whole episode on that, hopefully. But what about episode 3? This was probably, I forgot about this episode. It was like one of my favorites. It was your money mindset.
Yeah, that's a good one, because I think for people, when we talk about mindset and we talk about positive thinking and affirmations, there's a negative stigma around that. I think that a lot of people just don't buy into it. And it's not just about looking at yourself in the mirror and saying that you have money when you have like $3 in your bank account, but it's about understanding how you think about the world as it relates to money. For instance, I'll just give you a story that I'm going down to Florida to be a part of this new business launch. And there's a lot of people that I can't afford it. That just was a game changer for me. I can't afford it versus how can I afford it? That we talked about that in that episode. And that for me was the big takeaway from money mindset, of just the way you look at the world, not necessarily just about your positive mantras. I know Ashley loves this topic because she doesn't like to say that, what is it? Circulate versus spend. Is that what it is?
Circulate versus spend. And when people say I can't afford it. And when people say I'm broke, I just cringe. Like, why would you put I'm broke out there? I mean, I used to say it, but I took that out of my vocabulary a long, long time ago. And when I try to bring it into others in just a normal conversation, they're like, I'm broke. I'm like, don't say that. You're not broke. I was like, you have a house, and I just try to get them to realize things that they're not broke for. And if you're putting that out in the air, in the universe, what do you think is going to continue to happen? You're going to continue to be broke. And a lot of people take that as I'm saying, just go out and, spend all your money, or just go out and do frivolous things with your money. And that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that the mindset is there. That doesn't mean that you're actually going out and swiping your card when you shouldn't be. I mean, I just hate that I'm broke thing. It really makes me just want to scream.
And I think too, you made a good point, because it's not about just frivolously spending your money, but I think you should not hesitate to spend your money when it is something that is going to really legitimately add value to your intellectual capabilities, to your skill set, to your life in a way. Like we talk about experiences and going and living your life now versus just consuming things that really don't provide a lot of satisfaction to you. I read a blog about that. We should actually do an episode about the science behind happiness and fulfillment on experiences and things. But I think it's just getting people in the mindset of being willing to invest in themselves. We're willing to invest in shoes and clothes and purses and things that really don't hold a lot of value to our long-term personal growth. But then when it comes time to make a decision about doing something that could, whether it's starting a business opportunity or going to a conference that could enhance your skills in one way, then that's where people hesitate. That, to me, that's where the mindset shift is huge. of course, on number 4, our favorite, The Power of No.
Yeah, that episode was awesome.
And I think we already kind of went over why we loved that.
Right.
Like I said, when I first learned about saying no, it was almost like I felt liberated in a way, because it really hit close to home at that specific time in my life, because I felt stretched thin. I felt like I just didn't have a clear direction. So I was saying no to like all these opportunities that were being placed in front of me, but yet there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to how those opportunities could really help me, other than the fact that I was doing something good for somebody else. And with being able to say no and really thinking intentionally about the types of experiences, the types of networking, the types of events that you should be doing, I think it just also goes into the fact that people are just waking up. They're thinking strategically about their life. They're not just going through the motions.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because one thing that I know that hit home for me, to kind of use your wording there, is you almost feel bad saying no to things when you really shouldn't. And I think that is the stigma behind it is, oh, if you love me, you'll say yes. And I don't think anyone says that out loud to you, but we all have that little thing inside of us that we feel bad for saying no. But as we talked about in episode 4, if you'll go listen and download it, is that there is a polite way to say no, right?
All of our show notes too. I don't know where you guys actually get the episodes from, because you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, but we also on our website have show notes for every show. So anytime that we talk about something or we reference a resource, and I know in the Power of No episode, there's a really great resource that we reference about like these templates that one of my faves, Michael Hyatt, shared about ways that you can politely say no to things, all different types of things. And so we reference that in our show notes. Always remember to go to the website and check the show notes, because they're filled with a lot of resources. And every week I try to find a new gift to share. I love gifts.
Yeah, yeah, you
Ashley,
do. I have another friend that loves gifts. What?
Ashley thinks I'm a nerd, which is fine, but I love gifts. I just think it adds personality to the show notes.
Yeah, well, no, when I go look at them on the website after you post the episode, I'm like, oh my God, here's the gift. But they are funny. Yeah, it never fails. You always have a GIF on there.
Always.
The 5th episode was the multitasking myth. Stop doing it. You're not even good at it. And that was another title that was a little bit harsh, I'm sure, for people. But we really went into why it's been a myth for such a long time, what studies and the science behind why multitasking is not productive. And I know it helped me just yesterday when I was trying to get a bunch of stuff done. Had all these different windows open, and I was like, okay, I took 2 seconds. I was like, okay, breathe. What do I need to accomplish first? And then I can move to the next window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had 20 tabs open yesterday too. I swear, Ashley and I have this like strange ESP happening, and we don't even realize it.
Yes, it's that energy.
But the fun thing I liked about this too is I talk about my episodes with my stepkids, and we talked a lot. I believe it was in the multitasking episode about how young kids are getting into like pedestrian walking the street accidents because their faces are looking down at their phone, or they're just so used to getting notifications every 5 seconds. Well, now one of my stepsons has completely turned off notifications from his phone. Now, just the sound, he still gets the notification, but the sound. So he's not, because he's like, I couldn't get anything done. And I was like, I'm so glad you came to that realization. Because a lot of times, especially with kids, if we're trying to teach our kids concepts about life or other people in general, sometimes they have to go through the motion and learn it on their own. And then when they get to that place where they're like, oh yeah, she was right about that. This has even impacted
a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I thought that was totally cool.
That's amazing. I'm thinking like, what is he trying to get done? Maybe he's doing homework or something.
PlayStation 4.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't like being bothered by all his friends on Snapchat and everything when he's on PlayStation 4, whatever game he's playing. But still, I think that is, I don't care what it's for. Yeah. I think it's the idea and the principle of the fact that he understands now that every 5 seconds when your phone is bing, 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 that's distracting. And so he's eliminated that distraction. And I love this next one, me time. I think a lot of people appreciated that because it's a challenge that we know a lot of people face.
And I remember we were trying to think of like an official title for the episode, and we just kept throwing around all these like cliches and stuff. And I'm just like, well, we've been calling it me time the whole time. And so we added the tagline, if you don't like yourself, who will? It's so true. It's so true. And I remember you posted something like, do you guys have me time? Oh, sorry. Do you guys have me time? And someone was like, or no, I think you posted something about,
how do you get me time? Was it the Facebook post you're talking about?
Yeah, but it was something about, do you guys like yourself? Or it was something like, how do you guys treat yourself? And someone was like, well, what was it?
I think there was two, because at first I said, what do you do for me time? And there were a lot of people that said, like, what the hell's me time? Was that the one you're talking about?
No, I think it was the one where you had said something about, how do you guys like yourself or love yourself or something to that effect. And somebody put on there, well, if you don't like yourself, who will? And that was the title of the episode. I was like, oh yes, this is amazing.
I remember that now. Yeah. I know. So it's fun when the audience just kind of
gets it.
And they affirm what it is that we're doing. I think that's from a host standpoint and from people, from Ashley and I's perspective of running a podcast, like, we're not just doing this to meet once a week. I mean, we like each other and we like talking to each other, but we really want to make an impact. So that's what this is all about. So I think when people affirm that it's just a really great feeling from this side of the aisle,
It was really fun talking with people and doing a little survey, finding out how they get their me time. Do they plan it out? And it was common with people who had kids that would say they'd get it in the car after they drop the kids off or on the way to work. And then a lot of people do just like take 15 minutes out of their day to, sit on the patio or go outside or just meditate or something like that, which I thought was awesome because I thought a lot of people would say they don't have any me time at all, but a lot of people were really open to it. And hopefully, they can find more time for themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. This for me was where thinking high level about our podcast and the value that it brings to people. When we did these 4, 5, and 6, power of no, multitasking, and me time, we started talking a lot about like what your vision was. And then this light bulb kind of came off for me. Why haven't we talked about vision? If I could go back and kind of restructure the way the episodes play out, it would be where this next episode 7, that would be 2. Right. Because really it kind of goes back to ground zero, like we called it, of all of this really starts with finding out and asking yourself what you want out of life. Like, what do you really want out of life? And thinking deeply about that. And so first, I think 7 was another big episode because I think that's where things start to just come together. Now there's like a path that we're taking people down. And we don't know if we're going to be able to do this every episode, because I think that there's obviously a lot of basic topics you can talk about in the personal development space. All those episodes after that it's like, here's where you start your journey, and you start with writing your vision. You start with asking yourself what you want. And then we take you down like, then what's next? Then what's next? Then what's next? Mm-hmm. What challenges are you going to face along the way? And that's kind of where, at least when we were thinking about the strategy around the episodes, kind of where it went. And I thought like, well, wow, it would have been great if we would have started out like that. But whatever, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
People can go back and listen to episodes out of order if they want.
Right. Well, I was just going to say the defining your why is huge. And I know just being in sales, it's always about why, how, what. Simon Sinek does a whole series on this on YouTube, and he's really great at defining the why. I think a lot of people obviously say their why is their kids or their family or their business, or they want to travel, but there's also a deeper why something really, really down deep that triggers that for you. And then, of course, finding your vision and what do you want, getting clear. And I know that was a huge struggle for me, is getting clear. And I wanted to do a million things. I wanted to help people do all these different things. And I wanted to, have a ton of businesses. But I know, at least in my life, I need to have a focus. I need to have a clear path, or else I'm just like stretched thin, like you said earlier. You're doing a ton of different things, but you're not really honing in on one craft. And I watched a video about that, and it made me really think about the 10,000 hours thing. I'm sure you've heard the theory of if you do something for 10,000 hours, you'll be an expert. And I'm sure there's cases where it's less than that. But I was always trying to perfect things that I wasn't good at, which, that's fine. But why not really perfect the things that you're already good at so you can be amazing? Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of athletes do, and a lot of actors and people who have that one lane. I love that. I love that episode.
That's a really great point. I think that, and we should actually do an episode about that, I think, because like you said, when I started a business, there's like a correlation here too. When you're by yourself, you have to do everything. And a lot of times you have to spend your time doing things that you're neither proficient in or you're not passionate about. And I learned that concept from, again, Michael Hyatt. There's certain people that, we listen to. Those are really hard tasks to do. So it's like, why am I trying to figure out SEO, accounting, which I can kind of do, why am I trying to spend time doing these things when really there are other people out there that are great at them? And that's what they should be doing for me. I should focus on, and this applies to your life, guys. Like Ashley said, like, what are those few things that you really love and that you really care about? Like, spend time in that. That's called, Michael Hyatt calls that the desire zone, something you're passionate about and something you're proficient with. And if you can spend the majority of your time doing those activities, even if it's in a hobby for you, that's going to bring major, major, major fulfillment to your life. So I love that you said that, Ashley.
Thank you.
On to setting goals and executing. This was a cool one too. I mean, I think there's so much info about goal setting out there for people that it's kind of one of those like obvious episodes. I mean, how can you have a personal development podcast and you don't talk about goal setting?
So and executing.
Right. But I do like that we kind of brought in those two theories and kind of differentiated between the SMART goals and dumb goals. And if you guys remember from the episode that those are just acronyms. So the dumb goals aren't bad goals. There's actually like good stuff about dumb goals.
Right. Yeah.
But we kind of compared two interesting theories and then gave you guys tools that you could work with to start setting and executing on your own goals. And the biggest thing I think is the execution. That's the biggest thing, because that's where all the challenges, you know what I mean? That's where all the challenges. And I think that also goes into what motivated the next 3 or 2 episodes, at least for that. Because when you do get out there and execute, you're going to be faced with a lot of challenge. And I think that's where we come in with the fear and self-doubt, and then the navigating the gap in those episodes 9 and 10. Any big takeaways that you have from those, Ashley?
The fear and self-doubt episode, I really felt passionate about because I know my own struggles with self-doubt and just like, stuff from your past and things like that. My big takeaway was the awareness part of it. If you see the self-doubt kicking in, or if you felt it, you maybe said something or thought something that was putting yourself down, and you can immediately correct it, I think you're on the right path and you can move forward. But if you're not aware of it, that's where we get stuck in the loop and we just have a million things to do. And then we sit there and do nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a symptom of fear and self-doubt. And that's something that it plagues everybody. There's not a single person that doesn't have some level of fear about something. The difference is that when they get the fear, they do it anyways. And we mentioned that later in the A Life Without Regrets episode about the fact that courage is not the absence of fear. So if you're like the word fearless, when people say I'm fearless, well, that's not okay. So you're not afraid to do anything and then you go and do it. That's great. You're not overcoming any challenges, right? I think where people really resonate is that, yeah, this scared the shit out of me, but I did it anyway. And that's what real courage is. Courage is when you have those feelings, when you have those self-doubts and you do it anyway. For me, I think that's the biggest thing, is that everyone has fears. So I think that hit home for a lot of people, that episode did.
There's a great meme with Gandhi on it, and it says, feel the fear and do it anyways. And I just thought that was so powerful, because that's what we all want to do. It's not like we want to be just I'm fearful. Okay. We all want to go after it. So that episode was fun. And then navigating the gap kind of fits into that space, the in-between from now to your dreams.
I think that had some important takeaways that are really relevant for people now, with just the instant gratification about how we're used to having everything now, and how that mindset can be harmful when it comes to working on your dreams, because it's not necessarily going to be, there's no such thing as overnight success. We have this competing feeling about the fact that there's so many things in life that we can get now right away when we want it, the minute we want it. But this really important thing that we want, that's somewhere off in the distance, somewhere off in the future. That's a huge competing interest, I think, that messes with a lot of people along the way. And then, of course, comparing yourself to others. That's huge.
Right. This next episode was awesome because we got to kind of dive into some different type of thinking, and kind of looking back and hopefully changing the way that we do things going forward is the top 5 regrets of the dying. I mean, I was like, oh man, this episode is going to be so depressing, but it wasn't. It was actually really fun. And I got a lot of feedback from it, and we just launched it, I guess maybe a couple weeks ago. People really liked it. It feels like they took a lot away from it and kind of analyzed a couple of the topics. Like one of the topics was, I wish I had the courage to let myself be happy. And the courage piece came up in a lot of those top 5 regrets.
Well, I think it just reiterates why we're doing what we're doing, because that number 1 regret was living a life that I wish I would have lived a life true to myself and not the life others wanted for me. And that really just encompasses everything that we do here. But for me, my favorite part of that episode was when we were in the middle of recording and I was talking about what you just said. I wish I had let myself be happy. And I'm giving my own commentary. I had this like light bulb moment of like the permission to be happy. It's just interesting where these ideas come up like as we're recording. And it's something that made a huge impact for me and how I thought about it just as I'm recording the episode. And it wasn't just about like doing things that make you happy, but it was like allowing yourself to be happy, which I think is different. I think that's people that get to that time in life where they're like, I was too angry, I was too cynical, and I could have been happy about all of this stuff, but I didn't allow myself to be, which is why gratitude, I think, is totally, totally huge.
Yeah. That's just what I was actually going to say. Gratitude. I don't know if we talked a lot about it in that episode, but I wish we would have if we didn't. And when I was talking to my friend from Trinidad, I know I've mentioned him a lot of times. His name is Lawrence. Let's call him by his name. He was kind of pointing out the fact that he felt in the episode that we were saying that to be happy, you had to accomplish or achieve something. For me, at least from my perspective, I hope that's not what we were saying. I think what we were saying is that a lot of people wait to be happy until they get to their goal. And my point was you can be happy along the way. Mm-hmm. And his point was happiness is a natural state and you don't have to necessarily achieve anything to be happy, which is also true. So I wanted to kind of reiterate that a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I totally agree with that. You have to learn how to find happiness along the journey because it is a journey. And you have to learn how to love the process, fall in love with the process of becoming better. But I do think there's something to be said. The reason that we are sharing those 5 regrets is because all those people had the same regrets. And it was living a life true to themselves, not being afraid to speak up, not working so hard. So yeah, I think that the fact that they get to a place and they feel like they didn't accomplish the things they wanted to, I think we should listen to that. And I think we should then go and try to pursue that, but then allow yourself to have gratitude and be happy along the way. So I think we can kind of merge those two concepts to listen to what the people before us have said, and then also understand that like it is just as important to be happy now.
Right. Okay. And then the episode that we just did was squad goals, elevating your circle of influence. Our hashtag definitely is squad goals on that episode. So you guys can find all the juicy info. I don't know, that it's another fundamental of self-development. You are the top 5 people that you hang out with. Your network determines your net worth, which I know that's something I forgot to say in that episode. And I was like, damn, I wish I would have said that. But that is so true. And evaluating who you're around. Are these people people that you want to achieve to their level? You know, are you the smartest one in the room? Things like that.
For a lot of people, they're going to have their own challenges with that. And I just thought it wasn't, when we talked about it, it's super important because you got to have a support system of people that want to see you succeed. And I think my viewpoint on this is somewhat skewed because my own personal experience, I'll say that I've been extremely lucky. There is not that much drama in my life. My family gets along on both sides. I have friends that don't cause drama. And so I have a pretty even keel life when it comes to the relationships and what type of shit people are adding to it, negative stuff. That doesn't really happen for me. Sometimes I get lost in that, and I have to understand that not everybody's life is like that. Some people's family cause them a ton of drama. Some people have friends that maybe they've known for a while that just have drama. And so I feel like I'm somewhat separated from that issue, but I also understand the importance because I know how amazing my relationships are with my friends and my family, that should be a goal of people, that at least whether or not they have to limit their time with certain people or ditch certain people altogether, which we talk about in the episode, you got to get to yourself to a place where the people you're hanging around are positive. They're not adding all this drama. They just want to see you succeed. I guess the mentality of not wanting to see other people succeed I just don't get that. Do you?
Yeah. No, I've never understood that either. And I've talked with other people about this in the past. This has been an ongoing topic for me and some of my business associates is, who do you have in your life? What's your network like? What's your family like? And, why don't they want to see you succeed? And not my family in particular, but I'm just saying a lot of people, it's the hate. Right. Insecurity, jealousy, all that nasty stuff.
Well, hopefully you can tune them into our podcast, guys, and maybe they'll start to rethink. Maybe they'll start to rethink of how they look at life. But guys, like that really recaps what we've been doing. I know we already shared our favorite moments on the podcast. Actually, what is something that you've learned since doing this show? Like, what's a lesson that you've taken away?
There's so many lessons. There's so many. Like I said in the beginning, the power of the yes and the no. I've learned a lot about that. And also navigating the gap really stuck out to me because I am a dreamer type person, and just getting in those ruts. And I've learned to pull myself up and just be accountable, hold myself accountable, be honest with myself, because I know other people depend on me. And just when I don't feel like doing something, I'm not a weirdo. I just count to 5 and do it.
Oh, weirdo. I love that.
I know. I mean, I know that was kind of all over the place, but I feel like holding myself accountable to the listeners and to myself and to my other partners, not just in the podcast, but my other ventures, is really where I want to keep growing.
I like that, holding yourself accountable to the listeners, for sure. I think my biggest lesson in this, journey so far for us, Ashley, has been the taking action versus thinking. So you kind of touched on this when you said that you were a dreamer. And of course, we've mentioned Mel Robbins a million times on our show, but this is something that she really teaches. And this is the whole entire principle of her 5-second rule. And I think this is the thing that actually helped me personally pursue to actually get the podcast launched. And it was, we have a default setting of thinking and analyzing. We need to change that into getting ourselves into being in the habit of taking action. You can dream all the amazing stuff about the places you want to go, about how you want your life to look, about everything you want to achieve. And none of that's going to mean anything if you don't take the action. You guys have heard me say this, but it was thought for 2 years about this. Thought. And during that time, I can say I invested a lot of money in educating myself about having an online business and building an audience. But what does that even do if you're not actually out there doing it? And so I think coming into that and actually finally getting out of that thinking mode and getting into the habit of taking action has been a huge lesson on she's right about that, because otherwise, who knows, we would have just been both in our own worlds thinking about this, thinking about doing it. Guys, there's no better time than now. There's just no better time than now. And so that's been the lesson for me, just actually the fact that I stopped thinking and I started doing, and now we're out here trying to make an impact on people. And when random people find me on Instagram and message me and say, I really enjoy your podcast, that's what it's all about. It's yes, I don't even know who you are. But you found me, and what we're doing is making an impact on your life. And that's all this is about. So that's been my lesson. Should we kick it off to some, of course, guys, we got to have some action steps. We're just going to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that we've kind of wrap it nicely into a bow for you guys about from here on out, what you can think about doing.
Okay. So the first step in the whole process is being honest with yourself, looking in the mirror, admitting your mistakes, forgiving yourself, forgiving other people. Just be honest with yourself. And then number 2, get clear about what you want. Say no to things that don't align with your vision. Say yes to the things that do, and get clear about what you want. Tackle one thing at a time, because it may snowball into other things. And then number 3, formulate a goal and or a plan, depending on how advanced you want to take it. Like we always say, there's building blocks. So if you feel like you've got this and you're more advanced, then make a whole plan. If you just want to start with one goal, start there too. It's all up to you.
Yeah. And then you kind of want to be prepared for the challenges. And that's where we talk about the fear and self-doubt, the challenges that come from when you're navigating that gap, instant gratification, comparing yourselves to others. What kind of self-talk do you have with yourself? Start paying, like Ashley said, awareness, pay attention to that and start picking up when that comes into your life. And then you always want to go back and revisit. For me, I look at my goals. I try to look at them every day. And if that doesn't happen, a couple times a week, but you always want to keep that top of mind so you never forget about where you're going. And then of course, guys, you got to start living now. We have our Life Designer Toolkit. It really does take you through all of those steps where you can just start to build that necessary foundation, because this is all about a journey. Your journey is not going to be the same as mine. My journey is not the same as Ashley's. We all have our own individual journey. We all take our own different times. We all go in different ways. We all try different things. It's about getting out there and trying and learning what works for you and understanding how to be grateful for that process and understanding how to find happiness and fulfillment in that process.
Mary, we've been talking about all the great episodes that we've recorded and a lot of the feedback and stuff that we've gotten. And I'm so excited that we can take the time out just to kind of get re-prepared for all the new great episodes we're going to have. Some exciting interviews that are coming up. We already know the second half here. So even though we're only taking a short break, you guys can, go back and listen to some episodes, maybe kind of perfect some of the things that you wanted to work on. I know there's some things that I'm going to go back and review for this second half of the year. Your thoughts on anything?
Ashley and I talked about, we had obviously visions of how we wanted to start the podcast. And this is a testament, I think, to a journey, guys. We came to a point where we're like, let's kind of go back to the drawing board. We really created a foundational base for you guys. And we kind of went through what all that was in our recap and the action steps. And we think it's important for you guys to spend that time to really get clear about what you want. Like Ashley said, go back and listen to some of the content, download the Life Designer Toolkit, use it, and just start your journey. And so you can kind of see in Ashley and I's journey together that we decided at 13 weeks in, hey, you know what? Maybe we can do this. And we actually went out to the podcast community that we are in, and we asked like, hey, like, what should we take a break? We don't know. This is something new to us. And everyone's like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think a point that really resonated, it's something that we tell you guys, it's to take me time, it's to recharge. And somebody said like, try to be superheroes, and we try to do it all. But I think it's a testament to the fact that you can start something and you can have an idea of those minute details of how you think it's going to go. And then once you actually start taking action, it's okay to change route a little bit. It's okay to say, let's take a pause, because we really do. We want to take a pause so that we can really give you guys the best of what we have to offer. And we really felt like we gave you some really awesome foundation there. And now we got some cool interviews coming up, and we're going to bring in some new perspective from people. But we want time too to be able to sit down and really go ask our audience, like, what was, survey you guys and find out what worked for you guys, what you liked best, what you want to see coming up. And so that's kind of why we're taking a couple weeks off. We're taking a couple weeks off from releasing new episodes. We're not taking a couple weeks off from work. You will be seeing us on social media. We are going to be engaging on our first season, on the first 12 foundational episodes. Again, you guys, we really appreciate all the support so far. It's been absolutely amazing. Ashley, wouldn't you say? I mean, all the support that we've gotten and the feedback?
Yeah, like a lot of the feedback I've gotten was from people that I know, but I was really surprised that like the one guy didn't even know what a podcast was. And now he's like, I listened to your last podcast and here's what I have to say about it. And I didn't even ask him, like, okay, but no, I love the support. Like anyone who's listened to an episode, I'm like so grateful. I'm like really impressed that, oh my God, you really listened to us. What did you think? Give me the good and the bad too. So I'm super blessed. And I know that it's helped me in my own life, giving people, what we've learned and what I've learned my 30-something years here on Earth. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool when people tell you that the things that you're doing has helped them. And the fact that there's just been random people too that have hit me up on Instagram mostly. I love this episode. We mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. And so, guys, I think this is a testament to what Ashley and I were both separately before we even knew each other, or before we even knew we both wanted something like this in our heads. I was in my head for 2 years. And when you take action, because I was worried about, like, what if nobody listens? That's what I was worried about. And it sounds so stupid when I say it out loud. I'll keep saying that. To see that people are listening. It's whatever it is out there that you guys have in your life that you really feel like you want to do, but something's holding you back, or worrying about what other people are going to say, not worried if somebody's going to listen to you. Go just do it. Because there are people that need to hear what you have to say, whatever field it is and whatever your passion is, they need to hear from you. And I think hopefully we're a testament to that. And I just am floored and just overcome with gratitude and the support that you guys have given us. And we cannot wait to just continue to improve this, continue to give you guys exactly what you want. So with that said, Ashley.
Man, I can't say anything better than that. Give you exactly what you want. So no, that's it. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and we'll still be hitting you guys up on Instagram and Facebook. And we're, excited.
All right, y'all. We'll see you later. grindtogreatness.com for the show notes. You guys know where to find us. We love y'all.
Peace.